I could have told you where to put it.
Yeah, I'll tell you where to put it.
I got to grab an Advil.
Already?
Good evening, weirdos, and welcome to another edition of Livin' Cruddy with Cruddy Joe. I am Cruddy Joe, and I'm here with the Geddy-along Gang. We have a Backstreet Boys enthusiast, an Iron Chef, handsome Jimmy Hansen, and the brains behind the curtain, the fool bug himself, the king of the nighttime world, Mr. Gene Coffinberry. And our very special guest is an author, a musician, a Shaolin monk, and a master of haiku, Mr. Danny Bland. Good evening, sir.
Hello there.
Oh, I forgot to mention he's also a discriminator on several levels.
All right, so Danny, I've known at least on the internet for it's going like 30 years now.
Something like
20
that.
years.
25, probably.
25. Okay. Yeah, we originally started talking at the time you were in charge of all things Super Suckers.
Correct.
And there was one of those listserv groups. This is back before Facebook.
On the email fan club.
Yes. Right? Yeah, the email fan club for the Super Suckers. And it turned out to be, for me, the earliest cool, fun version of social media where you got to meet people you didn't know before who had some common interests and spread out across the country, and some people lived overseas.
I have lifelong friends from that. I didn't like you guys at the time, but it worked out.
The big deal going on at the time was people were just finding out about the West Memphis 3. So that became a central topic that was recurring on Fan Club. And you and I had talked a bit about some of that stuff. You had actually hooked up my old band with some shows with the Super Suckers in Florida. That was like the first time that I got to meet and do shows with those guys, which was very cool. I definitely appreciate that. But I remember touching base at the time, and we had talked a little bit about who we thought at the time was the guilty party of the West Memphis 3. And the consensus was that it was John Mark Byers.
Right.
Obviously, that wasn't the case. I mean, I'm assuming you changed your stance on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he wanted to be the main suspect so badly, but he certainly behaved. Obviously some mental health issues and really a desire for attention, even bad attention, drove him to implicate himself in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, he put on a really weird show, that's for sure. In the end, I'm glad that it wasn't him. I think that taught me a lesson that don't just assume whoever you think is guilty. So I'm not going to say that I think one way or another that it's anybody in particular, but the other father that looks so good right now.
Well, I mean, we as the general public can make all the assumptions that we like because we didn't have the power to arrest him and we weren't going to be all vigilante and go kill him. So we're allowed to make that mistake.
Yeah.
And again, he was really, really getting on our nerves. So
second documentary really presented it in a way to where they almost pronounced guilt. So you were steered towards that a bit. I'm sure there was some stuff that was left out of that. Later on, when you see him, you feel a little bit more sorry for him. You kind of realize that he's just got mixed up in this. And like you said, he's seeking attention. But since then, the guys have gotten out of prison. And I ran into Damien Eccles probably, I don't know, maybe a year and a half after all that happened at a thing that we were doing in Atlanta. And I was just talking to him for a second, and I knew Lori Davis a little bit, and I was reminding her of how I knew them, and it was like I think the way that my connection to you guys was Danny Bland, and they lit up like big smiles like that. They were like, "Fucking Danny Bland is a hero." So I don't know if I ever related that to you or not, but they talked about you for a while. It was probably the only thing that we had in common other than a love of rock and roll and other stuff. And then not long after that, one of the guys from Marilyn Manson came by and stole them off. I didn't get to hang out with them anymore. So
I just had dinner with Lori about, I don't know, a week and a half ago or something like that, maybe 2 weeks ago in New York. Yeah,
cool.
It was her first time leaving Harlem since the shit went down. So we met. I was there helping Steve Earle make a new record, and so we met at some restaurant, which was all plexiglassed off and outside. New York knows how to have a pandemic. They figured it out.
Are you back on the West Coast?
Yeah, I'm in Seattle now. Where are you guys at?
Nashville.
Might as well be Nashville. I could say Chapel Hill, but who knows Chapel Hill?
No one knows that.
I know Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
No, Chapel Hill, Tennessee, the middle of nowhere.
Obviously, if you're working with Steve Earle, how's he doing? I mean, he had some bad news recently.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting through it. He essentially went through the worst thing a person can go through.
Yeah.
Burying your own child is arguably the worst thing that can happen, and he's getting through it. What he did was we recorded a record of him doing all Justin Earle covers.
Oh, okay.
The band and just therapy. I thought it might be I was there to help because that's what I do, but I thought it would be sort of a morose, sad thing, but it was actually, he told a lot of Justin's stories, and it was all funny and sweet, and it was a real sort of celebration. So he did 10 of his songs, and then he cut a brand new song that he wrote about him, and I got to say it's spectacular.
Well, that's nice to hear. Justin was kind of a local. He hung out at the pond, which is like right over by where Jimmy and I live. A little hole in the wall. So your gig as a road manager, that's what you're road manager, right? That what you consider that title?
Yeah. I guess they would call me, I don't know what the difference between a tour manager and a road manager is, but I do it all.
Okay. And you're mainly with the Blasters, or is it split between the Alvin brothers? And how's that work?
Well, mostly for the last 15 or more years, it's been Dave Alvin and whatever he's doing. So if it's the Knitters or the Flesh Eaters or what have you, or when he did the records with Jimmy Dale Gilmore and the records with his brother Phil, and then so I was tour managing Dave and Phil, and when that tour cycle came to an end, then Phil had to go back out on the road with the Blasters, and he wanted to take me along with that. So I was doing double duty. I think that particular year, end of the Alvin Brothers records, and then in the second half of that year, I think I worked 320 days on the road that year. It was already out of control. I was already doing 250 days a year, and then it just bumped it up to 300. And I believe I even did 320 days one year. Yeah. I don't have any pets.
Anymore.
Or plants. Or
we had a bird, but you see what happened to it behind him.
anything that requires water or human contact doesn't exist. And God, it's, since this pandemic, it's so long, I don't even remember what I do anymore.
Right.
As ridiculous as being away from home that much sounds, if you're unmarried, I have a grown-up child, I've got, I essentially segued back into being a 16-year-old boy. So I have no responsibilities. I have a bunch of books and horror movie posters. I don't have grown-up things to do anymore, except for handle other people's business. This is a pretty good story. So my run of shows right before the pandemic kicked in is a pretty epic tale, which I have told once on the Dana Gould Hour, but I feel it's worth repeating if you have a few minutes.
Yeah.
So you remember way back in January of this very year, and it involves 3 acts. So I did January 23rd, and imagine what I had to pack for to do this trip too. So January 23rd, me, Dave Alvin, and his band all fly to Chicago to play a place called Fitzgerald's, and Fitzgerald's is a mainstay of Alvin's touring forever, but it's closing down. It's the very last night, and they flew Dave in to play the very last night to celebrate. Fly in, Chicago, end of January, cold as shit, did the show, all good. Those guys fly home, I fly to Nashville. I rent a truck, and I gather up Steve Earle's gear, and I drive it to Miami to go do the Outlaw Country Cruise. So the first show, I've known Steve for 25 years, maybe 30 years, but I've never worked with him before. I've known him, we've been friends forever. So the first shows that we're going to do together aren't even on dry land. They're on a fucking boat. But I'm driving a Penske truck filled with gear to Miami, listening to the NPR, and they're talking about this mysterious virus that's creeping around in suburban Washington, which I just left, and some old people aren't feeling well. So I said, virus. And they're talking highly contagious. The seemingly mad scientist at the time said, we have to be prepared for this to stop regular life as we know it. So that's in my mind. The way that news cycles work these days, no one will even remember this happened. But so what I'm doing, I'm driving to Miami, getting on a cruise ship, and I'm going to Jamaica and back. There's an earthquake in Jamaica as I'm pulling into Miami. So you know what earthquakes do to islands? They cause tsunamis and tidal waves and shit like that. I'm getting on a boat that's heading that direction. Steve Earle and band flies in, and I am standing outside of the dock, huge cruise ship. There's a line of riffraff coming in to pay to be on the boat. And they're, I don't really have to describe them too much. All you need to know is that they paid a lot of money to be on something called the Outlaw Country Cruise. So you can imagine what they look like now. The shorter line that the talent gets on the boat, I'm watching them get on board too. So in my brain, earthquake in Jamaica, deadly virus in the States, loading everything onto a cruise ship. This is a motherfucking 1970s disaster movie waiting to happen. I see Mojo Nixon getting on board, Mojo Nixon as Ernest Borgnine.
That'd be awesome. In a horrible way.
Lucinda Williams as Shelley Winters. Oddly enough, Chris Christopherson as Chris Christopherson. That was fine.
Right.
We get on the boat. The first day is, Steve plays a big show on the big outdoor stage as we're leaving port. Everything's fine. The next day, things get kind of weird. And I've never been on a cruise ship before as an adult. And I don't know if you can tell by my living room, but I'm not a fun in the sun guy. And they have buffets, and there's a special room where the talent can go. You don't have to eat with everybody else. And so they're, everyone's shoveling food into their thing. But the next day, all of a sudden, you're not allowed to touch the food anymore. They have someone there to do it for you. And they're spraying down your hands every time you go into a room where food's about to be consumed. So things are getting strange. So 6 days later, I ended up having a good time. All the shows went well. We're loading off of the boat. I send one of the other techs with the truck back to Nashville, and I fly home to Seattle for 10 hours. The following morning, I get on a plane to go to Australia with the MC5 or the MC50 to open up shows for the Alice Cooper group. If you remember, Australia had just been on fire.
It was on fire, yeah.
For a few months. It was smoldering now, but we landed in Australia. That went smoothly as well. We went to Australia, New Zealand. It's the Alice Cooper show, so they have to truck all those huge set pieces all over the place. So basically the schedule on a tour like that is you land, have a day off, you do a show, you fly somewhere else, you land, have a day off, you do a show, fly somewhere else, you have a day off, maybe another day off. We did 7 shows in 20 days, so it's not a hectic schedule. I fly home from there, so now it's like March 9th when I land. I also have written a book or two. So I have these appearances that have been booked at the San Francisco Book Fair and the Tucson Book Fair that are happening right after I land from Australia. But things are getting weird in the States. I fly to San Francisco to do these book reading, signing things. They get canceled the second I land in San Francisco. And I'm staying at a hotel in the Tenderloin, and it is really Tenderloin is a post-apocalyptic scene on its best day.
Right.
Things are getting strange. Then and then I fly to Tucson. I know that the reading's going to get canceled there, but I have my mom lives in Phoenix, and one of my plans was to, I had a Friday book reading. I was going to take Saturday, drive to Tucson, see mom, drive back, do my Sunday book reading, fly home. Again, as soon as you land, you get the text saying they're canceled. So I spent some time there, and then finally it's like, all right, it's super weird now. It's, I believe, the 13th or 14th of March. Everybody's already locked down. Everybody's already quarantined. I go to the Ghost Airport. I get on a Ghost plane and I fly home. As soon as I land at home, I get a text from Steve Earle's guys saying, "Holy shit, they just closed down the schools in New York City. Steve has a son who has to attend school. It's just part of his treatment. Could you please fly here and drive those guys down to Nashville, can get out of New York City like I'm Snake Plissken or something." So
escaping from New York. Yep.
I spend the night at my house. Next morning, I fly to New York City. I rent a minivan in LaGuardia Airport and drive it to Manhattan in 15 minutes. There's nobody around.
Wow.
We load up Steve and the kid and a bunch of guitars, some ice chests, and I drive straight through, probably 13 hours because there was no one on the road, from New York City to Nashville. And then I stay the night in Nashville, and I fly another Ghost plane back to Seattle where I can finally quarantine. Ta-da!
Ta-da! Yeah.
Ironic that you said March 9th, because here in Williamson County, that was the day that the very first person in Williamson County came down with it. Planet of the Apes. Crazy. I remember you talking about going and doing the cruise ship thing, thinking that they'd already been documenting at the time that there were a ton of problems on cruise ships around the world. Danny does a lot of cool shit that I wish I was doing, but that's not one of them.
That cruises, have not been on one as an adult. I had no desire to be on one. And but if you're going to go on one, that's the one to go on. It's called the Outlaw Country Cruise, but it should be just the Hillbilly's Wife Swap Cruise. The greatest joy I found on the Outlaw Country Cruise was not musical or anything silly like that. It was watching drunk couples fight. Really, really something else.
High quality entertainment.
Yeah, good percentage of the people that go on that cruise are from this county.
Yeah, doesn't say it. Sounds like a lot of what goes on here.
That's why it's like, ma'am, you need to fix your tube top. I'm not going to, but you should.
Going back to the MC50, it's like the coolest fucking thing ever. And I see pictures of Danny Bland with Wayne Kramer's All-American flag Strat, and I'm like, holy shit, how do I get to do something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. That was, I've known Wayne for a little while too, and we've been pals. I worked with him doing some of his jail guitar doors, charity work, and basically it all stems from the do-gooder nonsense that I do every once in a while.
Hey, it pays off.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
meant to admonish you about that, do-gooder nonsense.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? You can never go on the outlaw country cruise again if you're a do-gooder.
Well,
That's right.
that's what I want. That's what I was thinking about when I was. How can I harass the people on the outlaw country cruise? I wanted to just sort of like bring a fake badge and just wait till everybody was good and hammered and just mock arrest them all. Have you gathered?
All these outlaws.
We'll wear a different Brooks and Dunn shirt every night.
Have you ever seen the Brooks and Dunn balloon that flies over? You ever seen that big
No.
red balloon says Brooks and Dunn and it's got like a cow head on it or some shit?
No,
Like a blimp.
that's how they're spreading the COVID, with that damn Brooks and Dunn balloon.
The Brooks and Dunn, it's like they don't. The president and the vice president, they would never have the vice president and the president in the same room. And that's what they do with Brooks and Dunn. They're not allowed. Because what the national tragedy that would happen if both of them were taken out at the same time.
Well, I heard this actually wasn't the real Dunn. I heard it was a replacement. All right, so you wrote a pretty amazing book, In Case We Die. The one thing I wanted to ask you about was your stint working at an all-night adult bookstore, and that seemed to have prompted some of the funniest fucking stories. I was wondering if you had saved any that you hadn't used in that you might be able to share with us.
Well, yeah, I worked graveyard shift at the Champ Arcade, and that would have been, I don't know if I talked about it in the book. Yeah, I actually got hired as Christmas help because apparently things get busy at Christmas time there. They hired me on full time for the for the midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning shift, which now I realized that the world would be thrown into chaos, but I personally would not care if the sun never came up again. So working from midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning was just fine by me. And it's hard to get a stable worker to do that particular shift in that particular atmosphere. As you can imagine, it's a wild time. There's girls dancing in the back, just like in the Madonna video with the windows going up and down. They go till 2 o'clock in the morning and then they check out. And then from 2 till like 5, it turns into like a gay cruising area, presents its own problems because it also is the only place that's open at night when all sorts of drunks get kicked out of bars. You'll have unsuspecting straight people being walked in on their booths by gay cruising people, and that presents its own challenges. I'd have to get in fist fights all the time. You get insane Alaskan fishermen who hadn't seen city or booze or women in 6 months, and their pockets are fat with fishing money cash. To fight those guys all the time. I had a notebook that I kept under the cash register that I wrote down things because I knew it was insane shit, and I was like, one day I'm going to write a book about this.
Yeah, oh my God, the book fodder in just one shift alone would just boggle the mind.
The book itself is sneaky because it's tantalizing and titillating that way. It draws you in with all that debauchery and sleaziness. But in fact, did I mention drugs? But in fact, it's a romance novel in disguise, really.
Right.
But I have to lure people in. So
Well, then you pants them.
yeah, exactly.
It's a great book. I loaned it out to Joe so he could check it out before we...
Well, tell Joe to buy his own goddamn copy.
Yeah. We couldn't find it. I think you're discriminating against the disabled, sir.
Jeez.
First of all, I just wrote it. I didn't even. The audiobook you can go listen to now for free on Spotify. So,
Oh, wow.
so shut up.
Boom.
Spotify, In Case We Die. I put it up for free at the beginning of the pandemic. I thought that would be a nice thing to do. And then the George Floyd stuff happened like the same day that it went up. So I was like, I'm not really going to take to social media and, pimp my audiobook while this is going on. So I'll pimp it now. Go. No.
Yeah, I'm going to get an autographed copy of the Kindle version.
Back in the day when the whole Seattle thing was going on, I observed it from Florida. My buddy Tony was obsessed with it. And this is going back to 96. I don't even know. But he's like, one day, he's like, I'm going to stop playing music, man. I'm moving to fucking Seattle so I can be closer to all these guys from Nirvana and shit. And I'm like, well, that's a radical choice. What are you going to do for work? He's like, I'm going to go work at the fucking Jimi Hendrix Museum. That's what we called it. I don't know what the thing was called at the time. I guess now it's called Mopop pop.
The Experience Music Project.
He moves out there. I talked to him for like a year. I'm like, so what's going on, man? What's the highlight of what you're doing out there? He's like, well, I drove by the house where Kurt Cobain lived. But the coolest thing is I got a job at the Jimi Hendrix Museum and I work with Danny Bland. He's like, I just landed a job and he's my boss. And that ended up being Anthony Angelora.
I love Anthony. I think he's like the lone survivor of that whole crew who still works. I don't even know if they're COVID times. Who knows?
Yeah, he still works there. He's working from home.
I'm making a note to call him. Call Anthony. Okay. We had a lot of fun. Yeah, we did a lot of great shows there. I mean, it's an absurd situation, right? It's a rock and roll museum, which a lot of rock and rollers seem to be against. They also hired a lot of musician types to work in there, which I thought was great. And my argument about a rock and roll museum would be like, they hired a bunch of rock and rollers. There's still a lot of people alive who have exhibits about them, and there's a lot of punk rock exhibits, and they let us punk rockers put the exhibits together. King Tut doesn't get shit to say about how he's represented. You don't know what he was really like. EMP had some pretty authentic exhibits. I have a request, actually. Can you put the hat back on?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Thank you. I feel like it's a big part of your personality, and I want the whole experience.
Now I put the hat on, I can't think anymore. I think he's discriminating against me now for being bald. Oh, look at me, I have all this hair.
I have no idea how many limbs you have, and I think the hat is a nice one. That's all. I'm just saying it's a nice hat.
The first question I have, I'm sure you're sick of people asking how autobiographical your book is, but my more specific question is, I'm thinking the most autobiographical part is, and I think you should give my aspiring podcast the inside exclusive. Come on, admit it, the road cock was really you, wasn't it? Come on.
No, I think it gets explained pretty well in the book, because I would never be able to pepper spray my own rogue cock.
I think you doth protest too much. You would find a way.
If I desired to do that, I could find a way. It would be much easier to go to a peep show booth, drill a hole in it, put my cock through there, beat around somehow, and pepper spray it.
I'm not saying you didn't have a collaborator.
Right.
We'll say people are going to have to rush out and get the book now if they don't already have it. I got to know what they're talking about.
So what was the impetus behind Danny Reads to the Children? Was it just luck that it became such a huge phenomenon?
Yes. Everyone started doing, like living room shows and showcasing their talents on the internet for pandemic times. And I figured I would just do the opposite of what everyone expected me to do.
A webcam.
A webcam. This is before OnlyFans, so maybe it wasn't. Before I knew about OnlyFans. So I just thought I would read books to the kids.
I just wish I knew about 10 creepy monsters when my kid was still a child.
That's
a great book.
That's my most recent one. There was actually 50 episodes of that. I did 50 episodes, and then I decided I'd take some time off. But it turns out it's been several months since I've done it. I did one for Halloween, and I'll do some more.
Have you read any Chuck Tingle yet on there?
No, who?
Yeah, Google him as soon as you can.
Is he an actual?
He is a real author, yes.
That's him.
Chuck Tingle.
I mean, I had, of course, a very limited selection of kids' books here at the house, but once I started reading it, then people started mailing them to me, their requests. And so I have a shit pile of kids' books in the corner. I hope my parole officer never stops.
It could be a problem.
True or false? The road is no place to start a family.
True.
Oh, it is true because Steve Perry said it.
I was talking to someone fairly recently about a younger person about how ridiculous some rock videos were in the early days of things. Mm-hmm. I told them the story of that particular video, which is a rock band on the road, tired, making the slog from city to city. But really, that's a B story. The real story of that video is Steve Perry shaving off his mustache. It all ends on, the crescendo of the entire storyline. It is him sitting in front of a mirror and slowly shaving off his tour mustache before he's ready to go home to see his gal. Can you imagine making that video now? Maybe Metallica should do that. Not do the song, one of their songs, and then just a shot-for-shot recreation of the video, but with them in it, with
James Hetfield
shaving his mustache at the very end. I think
I still say Separate Ways is Journey's best video.
Is that the one where they're standing on the beach and they're bouncing?
All doing the air instruments, even the air keyboard. Yeah.
That's some hard haggard shit, man.
That's back when they used to spend upwards of $75 to make those things. I'm talking about 1985, $75, which is different.
Gotta adjust for inflation.
All right, so we'll move on to the quiz portion of the evening here. We've done 20 of these now, and nobody can guess. I will read a couple lines from a song. You tell me what the next line, the following line of the song is, and who did the song, and what the name of the song is. You have lifelines.
I can call anybody.
You can call anybody you like, or you can reach out to one of these two goofs, and I won't tell you which one knows more about movies and which one knows more about music. The first lyrics are, when she wraps her loving arms around me, it about tires me out of my mind. Yeah, when my baby kisses me. What's the next line and what's the song?
Something about feeling fine, I'm sure. Motherfuck. Kissing me. Some Kind of Wonderful.
Oh, you got it. Who's the band? I'll give you a hint. It's not Bad Company.
Okay, so it's not Brownville Station, who were the true Wild Men.
Close. Very close.
I'm going to say Grand Funk Railroad.
Grand Funk Railroad. You got it. Without a lifeline. The second one, it ain't the way that you shake me. Oh no, it's been 25 years. I'm a kid on the run. I've got a pistol for action. What's the next line?
And I'm going to guess.
You got the lifelines too.
Would you repeat that?
I will repeat it. It ain't the way that you shake me. Oh no, it's been 25 years. I'm a kid on the run. I've got a pistol for action.
That sounds just stupid enough to be. Okay, I'm going to, Cruddy, I need your help.
Carry On My Wayward Son.
No.
Wrong guy.
Do
Okay.
you know, Jimmy?
You guys are all mistaken. I think I got it. I nailed it.
I think I'm more in the right decade.
It's been 25 years. I'm a kid on the run. I've got a pistol for action. Don't tell me you love me. Night Ranger, don't tell me you love me.
See, I would have never.
Night Ranger?
Getting one, so you say 20 people have done this and no one's ever gotten one?
We've never done better than 2, and that's including it's all 4 with the 2 music and 2 movies. So you're 1-0. You got 2 more chances.
You're on your way.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. And I don't think that these 2 movie quotes are quite that difficult. I know that you're big into Halloween because I see you talking about Halloween, but I've never seen you reference horror movies that much. I don't know if that's a.
I love horror movies. I collect horror movie posters, and I'm particularly fond of the 60s, early 70s, often come along with a gimmick.
Like William Castle?
Yeah. Well, William Castle would be the most famous of them. So, like the Witch Detector, I have that one.
Yeah.
The one that comes with its own vomit bag in case you need it.
Mark of the Devil.
Yes, got that. Got the Mark of the Devil bag. I know real enthusiasts, and so I don't even try to compete. But,
Right. Well,
gimme.
first one is a rather easy one. The second one is slightly more difficult. In the first quote, tell me who the character was, either the actor or the name of the character, and what the movie was. You see anything you like? What's the matter? Can I get your ghost, Bob?
So,
You got lifelines.
Jimmy?
He disappeared. Wait,
Oh.
can I get your
Sorry.
ghost, Bob?
Can I get your ghost, Bob? It's just like one of the most famous, but easily forgotten lines.
Can I get your ghost, Bob? I don't know. Cruddy, you any help?
Cruddy's got to know this.
No, I don't know it. Sorry.
It's PJ Souls from Halloween.
Oh,
When Bob disappears, Michael Myers comes back with the sheet over his head.
I should have known that, and I feel shame.
I watched that movie 48 hours ago. So in that scene, she's just wearing a sheet, right?
Right.
Okay. If PJ Souls is just wearing a sheet, I don't hear anything. Oh,
There may be a nipple involved in that scene.
yeah. I would just be hearing white noise.
This is the last one. You can redeem yourself and get halvesies. The quote is, and I'll tell you the quote, tell me the character, name of the movie. The quote is, world domination, the same old dream. Our asylums are full of people who think they're Napoleon or God.
Can you repeat that and read it?
World domination, the same old dream. Our asylums are full of people who think they're Napoleon or God, and it's topical to recent events.
Recent events? Are you talking about? Oh, wait, are you talking about a pandemic or Halloween?
It's neither of those.
Fuck. These lifelines have been working out real good. I'm gonna put all my faith in Jimmy. Let's go.
I'm going to use the lifeline. I'm going to ask Joe.
Yeah.
What's your choice, Joe?
Dr. No, James Bond.
It's absolutely correct.
All right.
That's Sean Connery.
You're right. It is.
I own and watch a shit ton of horror movies, but like I said, I two of my best friends are insanely obsessed, and I can't even keep up.
Are we talking about Dana Gould?
And Dana, shit, three of them.
Dana Gould, his part of that Tales of Halloween is by far the best segment of that whole damn movie.
I love the Stand Against Evil as well.
2 more parts to this game show part of the thing.
I'm not telling your business, but it would be pretty easy to add some game show music to this.
The third part of our quiz is actually a request. And because you have a special skill, we're going to ask you to do a special twist on this request.
Do I have to write a haiku? Is that what's going to happen?
Great.
It's actually, we always ask everybody to do their best Werner Herzog impersonation. And I was going to ask you if you could do a haiku as Werner Herzog.
Oh, shit, put on the glasses. Shit's getting serious now.
Yeah, it's getting real.
Oh, and have you noticed, Danny, that Jimmy actually has a glory hole up above his head?
Yeah, I was noticing that. I was like, huh. Photos torn in half. Not a tear is shed as she recycles the groom.
That was fucking amazing.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Now, I don't know if that would... He often sounds more hysterical, but I think that was just sort of him in the twilight of the evening.
Yeah.
As long as I'm the best guest you ever had, that's all
That's a lock already.
You are.
That's in the bag.
I have a feeling this last portion might sink that. All right. You remember Mad Libs, right? Well, we do a version of that. It's called Nad Libs. You're not the only writer in the room. Joe is a writer. He writes a lot of shit.
The Cruddy Joe?
The Cruddy Joe, yes.
Oh, shit. I'm starstruck. I had no idea.
He's another world-renowned author. So basically what I'll do is ask you for word types, and I will fill out the stories there, and then I will read the story. To start this, I need to know what your favorite hair band is.
Whitesnake.
Oh boy, here we go again.
A bipedal animal.
I'll go kangaroo.
Your favorite Golden Girl.
If I give my true answer, which is I'm not a fan. Whichever one B. Arthur is.
Name of a celebrity.
Nicolas Cage.
A violent act past tense.
Sodomized.
A body part.
Finger.
A violent acts past tense again.
Sliced.
There's no X's in sliced. Another celebrity.
Linda Blair. I made a video with her once, and she was very nice.
Oh, that's right. You did the
Born with the Tail video. Well, here's this will make you feel better about Linda Blair. So we're making that Born with the Tail video, where of course she is dressed up like Satan at the very end. When we called her agent, I had to sheepishly ask for her measurements so I could get her a devil outfit. She was on the other line, and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I got my own."
Nice.
Of course you do.
I need a body part. We're almost done here.
Thigh.
Thigh. Expletive adjective.
I'm gonna go cocksucking.
Name of yet another celebrity.
Just Lisa.
Lisa. Okay, and a body part, of course.
Ear.
A type of vehicle.
School bus.
All right, we're down to the end here. An adjective.
Dirty.
Dirty. And finally, a fluid.
Motor oil.
All right. Today's story is, my eyes are already crossing. Danny wins the award. Ready? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, take his classes. There you go.
Thank you for the help. Danny wins the award. One sunny afternoon, Danny received an invitation to attend a ceremony where he was to be awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Literary Achievement. Incredibly excited, Danny put on his Whitesnake shirt, hopped on his kangaroo, and took off. Once he got there, Danny knew something was awry when the usher sat him in the front row next to Nathan Lane. Nevertheless, Danny and Nathan hit it off immediately, talking about B. Arthur from the Golden Girls. After the opening ceremony, Danny was brought to the stage where Hugh Jackman presented Danny a Tony Award for his portrayal of Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. He was justifiably confused, considering Danny had never been in Fiddler on the Roof. Nevertheless, Hugh Jackman turned out to be a pushy jerk and forced Danny to accept it. To make matters worse, just as Danny was about to make his acceptance speech, somebody handed him a microphone. Producers demanded Danny to sing "If I Were a Rich Man" from the play. Before Danny could protest, the orchestral music swelled and Danny realized that he knew all the words. After his song, Danny went backstage where he was congratulated by Nicolas Cage. Danny then sodomized him in the finger.
In the finger?
After his melee of violence, Danny went backstage for an encore nobody requested. Regardless, Danny sliced Linda Flair right in the thigh and took back his cocksuck microphone, which Danny broke into a stirring rendition of The Greatest Love of All, which caused Nathan Lane to burst into tears. After the song, Hugh Jackman escorted Danny off the premises after another unprovoked violent outburst. However, as they were leaving, Danny ran into Lisa and immediately kicked her in the ear. Before the police could arrive, Danny and Nathan jumped into a horse-drawn school bus and fled back to Danny's place. Despite having to spurn most of Danny's advances, the dirty couple had a lovely evening talking about the Golden Girls and drinking motor oil until the sun came up.
I would never, ever assault Lisa.
This is purely fictional.
I'd like to promote Danny Bland's Instagram page because it's
Yeah.
fucking hilarious. I do the Creeping Cruds Instagram, and I always make it a point to go to yours for some laughs before I log off.
That's quality content for sure.
Quality.
Jimmy's Cruddy Cuisine.
I made a cake. You want to see if I can do it in 10 seconds or less?
Yes, Jimmy's Cruddy Cuisine in 10 seconds or less.
I made a cake.
Was it delicious?
It was. It was amazing. Separately,
Taco
beautifully,
salad.
with some vanilla and some almond paste, and I sifted my flour 3 times. And I whipped the shit out of the egg whites to give them nice and fluffy, and I folded them in. You ever fold it in?
That's rather personal, sir.
Folded it in.
10 seconds.
That's all we got for this week. Thank you again for tuning in. I want to thank the Geddy-along Gang. We have Handsome Jimmy Hansen again, Gino Roy Coffenberry, and we would especially like to thank Danny Bland for letting us waste an hour of his life that sadly he will never get back. Thank you so much, Danny.
Thank you. Thanks for
No,
having me.
kidding aside, I hope I didn't annoy you by giving too much of a ration of shit.
I didn't detect or it at all. So,
Okay. Yeah,
well,
let us know when COVID's over. That'd be great.
that ends at the end of February. As a member of the Masonic Temple, we get to know these things ahead of time.
Well, good. Looking into your Masonic crystal ball, who's going to win tomorrow?
We've all participated in the ultimate humiliation of Donald J. Trump.
When my